Live from the studios of the legendary News Radio WRVA, this is Richmond's Morning News with your host, Rich Herrera.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to News Radio WRVA. It is 6:34 here in the capital of the Commonwealth, the voice of Virginia, as we celebrate 100 years of broadcasting throughout Central Virginia. 250 years is what we're celebrating in Washington, D.C. with USA 250. And as I told you a while ago, when I saw the President of the United States in England during a pass and review, PIR, and it's one of those things that you only hold for dignitaries and well-respected world leaders, when your military passes in front and salutes a foreign head of state or someone of great stature, it is a sign of respect. And I marveled at the time watching Donald Trump, and I thought, what would George Washington be thinking if he were to know 250 years later is the first president and the general that freed us from British tyranny? What would he think when he looked down and he saw Donald Trump standing there, having the British redcoats, the sons of the redcoats, honoring Donald Trump, saluting him as they walked for review? It was something spectacular. And now we fast forward to today with the King of England here in the United States addressing Congress, having a pass and review at the White House, and then a state dinner, a white tie state dinner last night in Washington, D.C. It's absolutely remarkable. It's funny. There was a joke I heard that for us, 250 years is a lifetime. For the British, 250 years was yesterday. When you think of how long that British monarchy has been ruling over Britannia, how short this experiment of democracy we have in the United States, and the two came to a head with the King's visit, a state visit here, an address to Congress. Who would have thought that the Congress that's full of, at the time, traitors and rebels would welcome the great-great-great-grandson of King George to the United States? It was something to behold yesterday. And I'm very, very proud to be an American today. I'm very proud to be an American, to be able to see this. And I'll be able to tell my grandkids, I saw when the King of England came here to celebrate our 250th birthday. It's something special. He joked, no, this isn't a rear guard. No, we're not coming back to reclaim our former colonies. He joked quite a bit during his remarks in Congress, and he had some quips and some jokes, and he and Donald Trump seemed to get along swimmingly. The two have known each other for a while, and Donald Trump admitted that his mom had thought that King Charles was the sexiest man alive. She thought he was so handsome, and made the king smile at that. The king talked about Donald Trump. In fact, I think we have a little bit of a cut from the king speaking and during his trip to D.C.
Let us raise our glasses and voices as we toast the past, the present, and the future, thank you, of our two proud and allied nations. To the United States and the United Kingdom, God bless both our countries.
To have the King of England say that, especially here in Virginia, where we have so much Revolutionary War history, sometimes I think we forget that Revolutionary War means it was a revolution. We did throw off the bonds and chains of the King of England to declare our independence, and we've been fighting for it ever since. It was rather remarkable to me. That was one thing that I took away from the address to Congress, the visit to the White House, and the formal dinner last night, the state dinner last night. But something else jumped out at me as well, especially when the king was in the Capitol and having a joint session of Congress addressing. And that's a pretty big deal for a foreign leader to be able to speak out, speak up inside the halls of Congress to the House of Representatives and the Senate. It was rather remarkable. But it was also remarkable for one other thing. You remember the last head of state to come and speak to a joint session of Congress? It was Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu. Many of the Democrats didn't bother to show up and protest over Benjamin Netanyahu. I've gotten so used to watching Democrats and Republicans clash during joint sessions of Congress. It's both sides. We've had Republican congressmen scream at Barack Obama, "You lie!" We've had Al Green shake his cane at Donald Trump. We've seen protests. We've seen members of Congress kicked out during joint sessions of Congress. But think about this. The British king stood in Washington, and both parties stood for him. Donald Trump said, I can't get them both to stand up and give me applause the way that they did for you, King Charles. And it made me think of something. And I kind of contemplated this last night. I want to share this with you this morning. And I'll get your thoughts. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140 on the James River Air text line. We read the best text messages at 655, 755, 855. But follow me with this. We've heard that our country is in shambles, shattered. Nothing works. Donald Trump is some figure the world rejects, and he has the rest of the world has such disdain for this, whatever you want to call him. In one of the books I read about the last election, when the Biden-Harris team were preparing for the debates, they learned that the one way to get there's a couple ways to get underneath Donald Trump's skin. One is to talk about the size of the rallies and just kind of poo-poo them like, not that many people showed up, infuriates him. The other one is to tell him that he's not respected by world leaders. And if you tell him that, that's a raw nerve for the president. We've been told that everybody thinks he's a clown around the world. Well, that's not what we saw with the King of England here. But that's also not, we also didn't see what we normally see when we get the Republicans and Democrats inside a joint session of Congress. You saw King Charles of the chamber, formal, respected Democrats and Republicans both rose together. There was no chaos. There was no protest. There was no breakdowns. You didn't see Democrats showing up in uniform in white or black or whatever they're going to be, color of the day, to protest. You didn't see Al Green shaking his cane. You didn't see AOC holding up a little fan. You didn't see Rashida Tlaib protest. You didn't see any of that last night. Why? Something to think about. If the Democrats who've organized the No King protest over and over and over and have called Donald Trump a king, an authoritarian, well, what is more authoritarian than having a king? And if you really wanted to show the world how bad Donald Trump was, can you think of a better stage to have a protest than embarrassing him in front of the King of England? Think about this. If Al Green would have pulled his nonsense, or Rashida Tlaib, or Ilhan Omar shouting the way she did during the State of the Union, you want to embarrass Donald Trump? You really want to make a statement? You really want to stand out? Then you should have done it yesterday. And I keep telling you, folks, I watch, I listen, I look, I put together a scattering report, and I find that little thing that nobody else notices that tells you what's really going on. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Donald Trump's not isolated. He's not looked around by the rest of the world with disdain. They might get angry with him, or they might be frustrated with him, but they show him respect. He's engaged. He's president. He's part of it. And guess what? That doesn't fit the script that you've been told. See, you've been told that he's an authoritarian and he must be stopped. He's a threat to democracy, and whatever we do, we've got to stop him no matter what. So if you're going to embarrass him, if you're really going to make him look bad, if you're really going to address him, yesterday was the perfect example for the Democrats that have been screaming and calling him all kinds of names and saying that he's an authoritarian and he must be stopped. You want to embarrass him? You really want to take the wind out of his sails? You could have done it during his visit with the king, but you didn't see any of that, did you? You didn't see anybody acting up. You didn't see any little signs. You didn't see any buttons. You didn't see any theatrics. So what's that telling you?
1 minute to A+ windows.
They keep telling you that it's total collapse, that the whole system's breaking down, that Donald Trump is ruining this country. But what you just watched was composure, was control, was normalcy. So why is it I have normalcy when the King of England is standing there in the same spot that I see chaos when the President of the United States is standing in that same spot talking to the same people? That's the tell. If this really was about the United States being in trouble under Donald Trump, then you would have shown him up in front of the King of England. You would have stormed out. You would have protested. You would have done all the stuff you do during the State of the Union, but you didn't do any of that during King Charles's visit. Why? Because it's not true and you know it. Because it's theater. Because you make it up and you're following some kind of script and you have main character syndrome, thinking you're a main character, trying to make yourself the star, trying to make yourself bigger than everybody else, but you're not. And as far as your cause goes, that I've got to stop Donald Trump at all costs? No, not really. Because all costs would have been embarrassing the United States because Donald Trump is such a fascist and a dictator and the orange man is so bad. But you didn't do it last night when the King of England was there, did you? Because if this collapse were real, this moment would have happened, and it didn't. So it just tells me all of your bloviating and pontificating, all of your theater kid theatrics, that's all it is theatrics. You really don't believe it. Otherwise, you would have acted yesterday. You would have acted poorly the same way that you do during the State of the Union, during King Charles' visit, and you didn't. So that tells me, do you really believe the nonsense that you've been trying to sell to the rest of us? I don't think so. You want to comment? 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140, the number for you to send a text, and we read the best text messages at 55, 655, 755, and 855. All right. Today's program is brought to you in part by A+ Windows. You know, it's family